watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you. Welcome to Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is a busy day. We've got a lot to get to, and wanted to let you know some of what you can expect here. Let me give you a live look inside the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Right now, we expect to hear any minute now from the Sheriff Bob Gualtieri talking about a mother who has been arrested, charged with more than 40 counts related to child porn. That includes 4 counts of capital sexual battery. Disturbing case, no doubt. We don't know, we don't have any details right now, but we do expect that news conference to begin shortly. But let me get you live now to DCA. This is Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, where Nick Daniels, the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, is speaking as the ongoing government shutdown continues. We know air traffic controllers are among those working without pay right now, and that's leading to some staffing issues and a number of other problems. So let's go ahead and listen in as he speaks with reporters.
Marks the first day that air traffic controllers have a completely different focus today. Their first loss of pay. Air traffic controllers are out moving over 45,000 flights today. 3 million passengers, tons of cargo that keeps America moving. And
are there do-overs?
Good, yeah, there are do-overs.
All right, well, I'm not sure what happened with the feed there, but we can let you know that there are a number of people with this union who have been passing out leaflets at the airport as well, and talking about some of the issues that the air traffic controllers are working with. Again, as we heard very briefly in those initial remarks, they are receiving partial paychecks today. Air traffic control workers are, and then would get nothing after that until the shutdown is resolved. So that's why you heard him briefly touch on the how today is kind of a big change for these air traffic control workers. And we have seen flight delays and some issues with that in a number of places. It appears that wherever that feed is coming from is rolling through some of their previous clips. We do still expect to hear shortly from the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, supposed to speak at this hour. And if that does happen, we will try to bring that to you live. Still feeling a lot of the impact from the government shutdown, a lot of different angles on that. We heard just a little bit ago from Democratic members of Florida's congressional delegation who held a virtual news conference to talk about health care and the tax credits that the Democrats have been fighting for. They want the Affordable Care Act tax credit subsidies not to expire, and they say that is really what they have made this stand on. And so we heard from several members of Congress, from some from our area, some from other parts of the state. We heard from Congressman Maxwell Frost just a little bit ago. We heard from Darren Soto, as well as Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz from South Florida, who spoke during this virtual news conference. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but talking about the impact of that, of what would happen if those subsidies aren't extended, because they talk about the Florida being, many in Florida being reliant on that. So we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. One last thing I want to let you know about coming up this hour is Ben Crump holding a news conference in Jacksonville. He's representing Erica McGriff, who is the woman at the center of what has become a viral arrest and situation outside a school in Jacksonville, where she was arrested, and that cell phone video, the body camera video, has gone viral. Well, let's get you now to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, where Sheriff Bob Gualtieri just walked up to the podium and is about to talk about the arrest in this child porn case. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Pornography, and that subject was also meeting with young children to engage in sexual activity. That person is a 38-year-old male. We're not naming him because the investigation into his activities is still ongoing. We determined that this male had been obtaining child child pornography videos from a woman in St. Petersburg, and the woman was texting the videos to that male. We determined that the woman who was texting the videos to the male is Shirley Hernandez, and the child involved in the sexual activity, the child pornography, was Hernandez's 11-year-old daughter. Hernandez had sent the man at least 14 very explicit and vulgar photos of her daughter performing sex acts. Now, Hernandez's identity is a public record based on her arrest, but for the remainder of my remarks today, I'm going to refer to Hernandez as the mother and her daughter, the 11-year-old victim in this case, as the daughter. The things that the mother did to the daughter are graphic, and they are grotesque. And I hope that you all do not publish the mother's name in an effort to do the best we can to protect the daughter's identity from those who may know the family. Ordinarily, as you know, in these press conferences, we have photographs, but again, publishing her photo will only allow others to know who the daughter is, and we all need to do everything we can to best protect her identity. After obtaining the information and the videos, detectives worked throughout the weekend to fully identify the mother and the daughter. Detectives determined that they live in the Lellman area of St. Petersburg, just north of the St. Pete city limits. And we also determined that during March and April of this year, the mother created at least 14 videos of her 11-year-old daughter posing at the mother's direction and engaging in various sex acts, including bestiality with the family dog. One of these videos is of the family dog performing oral sex on the 11-year-old girl. Other videos involve the mother using sex toys to vaginally and anally penetrate her daughter. These acts constitute sexual battery, or as is commonly referred to as rape, and because of the child's age, the mother's crimes are capital offenses punishable by death. The mother also performed oral sex on her daughter and required that the daughter do the same to her mother. The mother videotaped all of these acts. All of the videos are graphic and contain the mother giving the daughter directions on how to sexually perform for these videos. At about 10 o'clock yesterday morning, we served a search warrant at the mother and daughter's home in St. Petersburg and arrested the mother on 41 total charges, including 4 counts of capital sexual battery, with each count carrying the maximum penalty of death should the state attorney seek the death penalty. 3 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation, 13 counts of transmission of child pornography, 13 counts of sexual performance by a child, 3 counts of sexual activity involving animals, 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, and 1 count of the unlawful use of a two-way communication device. The mother is currently being held in the Pinellas County Jail, and she will make her first appearance in court today at 1:30 p.m. When interviewed by detectives yesterday, the mother admitted to forcing her 11-year-old daughter to perform sex acts on video and send in these photographs or these videos to the male subject. We're still trying to determine the full nature of the relationship between the mother and the male, but it appears that they met online. We're also trying to determine how many other people the mother may have sent these child pornography videos to. When we talk about the child porn problem in this country, I'm going to characterize it as being out of control, because I do believe that it is out of control. And it is something that we are literally investigating every single day, and it's really about the only way to describe it, is that it is an out of control problem. These cases are the worst cases of child abuse, and in this case, it's not just sexually abusing a child. It's gross sexual abuse of a young girl by her mother to satisfy an adult with a perverse craving for watching kids engaged in sex acts. This mother is culpable for her actions, for forcing her daughter to sexually perform on video, but equally at fault are the consumers of this crap, and that's what it is. The predators who like watching kids engage in sex with dogs and who then go online and try and meet kids to have sex with them are nothing but predators. The problem is based on supply and demand. People don't do this to kids. Mothers don't videotape their kids and direct their kids to do this unless someone wants to view it. And there's way too many sick people among us who want to view children, and I mean children, 4, 5, 6 years old, in this case an 11-year-old girl, engaged in sexual acts. And the watching of child pornography then leads to, or happens in conjunction with, these same people wanting to have sex themselves with kids. Again, the problem we are talking about is very young kids, where there's no mistaking their ages. This is not about a 16-year-old who might look older. This is about infants through preteens. And just to show you the magnitude of the problem, since January of this year, just here in Pinellas County alone, we have booked 84 different people into the Pinellas County Jail on child pornography charges involving about 900 charges of possessing or distributing child pornography. Think about that. That's 900 different videos of kids, mostly in the 5 to 12-year-old range, engaged in perverse sex acts for the pleasure of adults who seek, obtain, and watch these videos. This is nuts. I don't know how else to describe it, but we're going to do everything we can to curtail it, because it's something we'll never stop, but it's ruining kids' lives. Kids who perform these acts, like this 11-year-old girl, they're never going to be the same. You can't go through this and be the same. And we have detectives who are very dedicated to conducting these types of investigations. We're in the process of adding more resources to investigate these horrible crimes, so that the mother and others who engage in these acts will be held accountable. As I said, like so much of what we deal with, we're never going to stop it, but we're going to ramp up efforts to do everything we can to mitigate it, to curtail it, and importantly, hold people accountable for engaging in these types of acts. I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has. Again, I tried to be very careful about not identifying the mother more than what I did, and I would just ask you all to please be aware that this girl goes to school in Pinellas County. She is active in the community. There are people who will know who she is, and if you all show her mother's photograph, probably not a good thing, but I can't control what you do. I can just ask you not to do it. So anybody?
Sheriff, we discussed just how much of a toll this takes on, especially this daughter in this instance. Does she have a victim advocate, or where does she go from here? Is the mother a single mother? What happens now?
Yeah, so no, there's a father involved. There's siblings, or sibling, and she's in the process. She'll get services. Of course, the Florida Department of Children and Families has been involved in evaluating the case. And I know that our victim advocates are working very closely with the family. In this case, and you know, there are those that will be skeptical of this, and I understand the skepticism. I think that I've probably experienced the same skepticism, but based upon the interviews and the investigation so far, we do believe that the father didn't know anything about this. And so that's a good thing in the sense that she is still with her father, but DCF is very involved in this, and they're going to pay close attention to it. We're going to make sure that the right thing is done by her and that she gets services, so that she is getting help.
Did the father and the other sibling live in the same home?
Yes. Yeah, they all lived in the same home. Yeah.
If you talk about the 900 number of videos and photographs, do you think that was content that was generated here in Pinellas County or consumed by? Can you maybe elaborate on that?
So it's hard to tell, you know, where all this is made and where it's all consumed here, distributed out there in the dark web, as they call it, where all this stuff moves around. And in this case, she was making it and sending the videos via text message. You know, how much of it's being made here in Pinellas or being made in the state of Florida, I can't tell you, because it's very hard to tell with this. It is literally all over the place, and it's made someplace, and as we're seeing now, you know, she was doing it right here. So I can't tell you how many of those were made here or not here. I really don't know. Did you have something else?
Are you guys looking into the other sibling might have videos out there, or the mom sending videos to that?
So there's no indication that the other sibling was involved in this at all. It was strictly this 11-year-old girl. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead.
What charges is the 38-year-old man?
Yeah, so he's facing a number of felony charges involving child pornography and traveling to meet a minor to engage in sex. So again, we're not going to disclose much about that because that investigation is still ongoing. But this happens all the time, though, and this is the other problem with this, is that you got these people who engage in child pornography, and it's either in conjunction with or then leads to them moving from child pornography into real sexual contact with these young kids. And again, I'm not talking about 16, 17-year-olds, which is bad in of itself if there are adults who are doing that. But when we're talking about this, we're talking about kids that are, again, sometimes infants, which is, you can't even get your arms around that, to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 10, 11, 12. So these are all preteen kids that these people are out there, and it's going on every day. It's sick, and it's just, it's awful. But they are either doing it in conjunction with getting and viewing the child pornography for their own sexual gratification, or it leads to them going out and wanting to take it to the next step, which is going out and actually having contact with these kids themselves. And I'm trying to be careful here, but these videos are bad stuff. I mean, they're graphic stuff, and the stuff that she was doing to her daughter with sex toys and all this stuff. And this is what these people want to see, and then this is what these people want to do. Seriously?
I don't think you touched on it, but can you explain what department works to find individuals that are watching or that are getting these videos?
Yeah, so a lot of it is shared out there, and we get information from a variety of different platforms that see these people who are sharing this information. We have our own investigative techniques we use, and sometimes we get information from people. So I'd say it is the entire gamut of being able to see what's being exchanged, see what people are doing out there, and conduct these investigations accordingly. But a lot of it is exchanged over what's called the dark web, and these are not situations where, I mean, this is intentional, very deliberate, very explicit. This is not where somebody goes on to a search engine and happens to type in the wrong term and gets in it. That's not what this is. There's no mistaking what these people are doing. It's intentional, it's deliberate, it's bad stuff.
Jeff, you said you weren't going to talk about the relationship between the woman that created the content and the man she sent it to, but was she profiting off this at all?
So we're looking into that, and that's something, in a lot of times in these cases, there is somebody in the chain someplace that does profit off of it. There is some money somewhere in it, but sometimes it's just quid pro quo exchanging between the parties. And so we've got some search warrants that have been executed on some of the electronic devices in this case, some that still need to be executed. So we're still trying to figure out if there was any money exchange, or put it this way, where the money was exchanged, somewhere in the chain of all this. But there's always money involved in it someplace. The question is where. Nobody's doing it for free. Yeah, and then we're looking into that to see, and again, but we need to be able to get into these devices and do the analysis to see where else she may have sent these particular videos. I mean, there's no question with the mail, he was getting all kinds of videos from, all different kinds of places. These people who do it, they got to start someplace, but the majority of this time, I mean, this is ongoing stuff, and it's continual behavior by these people who engage in this.
Is there any information that the male actually made contact with the 11-year-old?
We don't have any information to that effect.
Did you say anything about not sharing his mugshot, or is it just money?
I'm not telling you who he is, so if you can figure out his mugshot without me telling you, good luck to you. So you're not getting that, but like I said, you'll know because you all will check the jail and you'll see the book. There's 41 booking affidavits, and she's going to be at first appearance today. You all going to know who she is. I mean, it's all public record. That's just the way it works. Her information, the victim, obviously the 11-year-old, that's confidential, and But again, my point is that this is unusual in this case, in that the mom's the one that did it to the daughter. So if you all publish the mom, and again, they're in the community and doing, is that people who know them are going to find out who she is. And I think, at least I'd rather that not happen if we can avoid it. All right, thanks everybody.
The Pinellas County Sheriff wrapping up a news conference. They're talking about a a disturbing case of child porn and sexual battery, where he says the mother in Pinellas County accused of sharing explicit videos of her 11-year-old daughter that were then sent to a man that they believe she met online, that they described those videos as graphic and grotesque. I'm not going to go into some of what they said was on those videos that we heard the sheriff describe. You also heard the capital sexual battery charges. Some of what they found in those videos constitutes that, and those are capital offenses that are punishable by death. So this woman could be sentenced to death for these crimes if she's eventually convicted of them. According to the sheriff, she admitted what she did to detectives and is expected to make her first appearance in court this afternoon. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. as the government shutdown continues. Let me give you a live look at this news conference that is going on on Capitol Hill, where we're hearing from several Democratic lawmakers who are speaking out against the president's, what they were calling illegal mass firings of workers in the government. Let's go ahead and listen in. This is Democrat Steny Hoyer of Maryland, who is speaking right now. Let's go ahead and listen in as this news conference continues live.
From wherever they are, we're here. We want to get the government back to work for the American people. The next article is hundreds of CDC layoffs reversed, but biodefense protections, preparedness staff are still hit.
Danger! Danger! Danger!
Ladies and gentlemen, every authoritarian leader has had his grim reaper. Russell Vogt is Donald Trump's grim reaper. Trump even posted a bizarre video describing Vogt in those terms. That's who he wanted, a grim reaper. Grim is defined in the dictionary as sinister, savage, and ferocious. a trauma causer. Reaper is defined that which is used to cut down. Vogt swings his scythe through the federal government as thoughtlessly and dangerously as Elon Musk and the Doge children did with their chainsaws. The effect, sadly, has been the same. Great damage to the government, the American people, and the morale, psychological well-being, and efficiency of the patriotic American workers we call federal workers who serve them. I want to close because we were told there was a 1-minute limitation on the speakers. I love you. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission defines hostile workplace as one that, quote, involves unwelcome conduct that creates an intimidating, hostile, or abusive work environment. The Congress has said that is illegal. Now Russ Vogt once promised to traumatize our federal workers, saying, and you've already heard this quote, but it demands repetition. When they wake up in the morning, we want them not to come to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. Well, these courageous people kept showing up because they love their country. They love their state, their community, and their families. And so they kept coming. Day after day, trauma after trauma, attack after attack. And they came. And America was served. And so Vogt and Trump decided, we'll do what we've done before. We did it in 1995 over education and other expenditures, and Gingrich shut down the government just a year into his term as Speaker of the House. And then in 2013, they didn't like health care then either. They shut down the government so that Americans would not have the health care they need and want. And so today, they've shut down the government. Why? Because they want to stop Americans getting health care, which will happen on December 31st if we do not act. That is why we're standing here. That is why this is so important. For the American workers, our federal employees, yes. But for the American people, absolutely. Our federal workers are not the villains. The man, the reaper, putting them in trauma, he's the villain. They're the villain. Now, you may not get this analogy, but I want you to listen closely. But as the Blue Oyster Cult Band once sang, we don't fear the reaper. We don't fear the reaper. We don't fear the reaper. We are going to keep fighting for Americans' health care and for our federal workers. We will make sure Russell Vogt reaps what he has sown with these illegal actions.
Now we're going to hear from Congressman Don Beyer, who's been a leader in this fight.
This news conference continuing live on Capitol Hill at this hour. You can see some of the signs that are being held up as the Democratic lawmakers continue to speak out against the firings of some federal workers, part of a mass layoffs that we have seen in the kind of thinning out the ranks of in the federal government and federal bureaucracy as this government shutdown continues. We are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to get you live to Jacksonville, where attorney Ben Crump, who is a nationally known personal injury attorney, civil rights attorney as well, he's holding a news conference right now in Jacksonville, speaking about the arrest of Erica McGriff. Her arrest has gone viral. She was arrested October 7th outside a charter school in Jacksonville. The sheriff's office released some body camera video showing that arrest, and also two other bystanders who were arrested, they say, for interfering with law enforcement and preventing them from making that arrest in violation of Florida's HALO law, which requires a 25-foot buffer to law enforcement in those situations. It was an interaction that escalated between law enforcement and this woman. She's now being represented by Ben Crump, who you see here. We also expect to hear from her during this news conference. So let's go ahead and listen in live now from Jacksonville.
This is how many young black motorists have been killed doing simple traffic stops. And that is a problem. Doing routine traffic stops, our community has an ongoing concern across the country of suffering violent and deadly interactions at the hands of law enforcement. The type of force used on Erica McGriff, the chokeholds, the hair grabbing, they're being punched with closed fists in the face, having knee put on her neck, should be reserved for armed and dangerous criminals who are a threat to the public and our safety, but not for mothers who are double parked to go pick up their daughter from school so she won't get rained on. Regardless of what you think, how she should comply, when you look at that excessive use of force It is not right. The United States Supreme Court has issued decisions that have said even if you were engaging in a lawful arrest, you still cannot engage in excessive use of force. And what we saw with Erica was excessive use of force. This woman was beaten and is a victim of this excessive and unjustifiable use of force in front of her 9-year-old daughter. Students and parents at the school. This officer didn't seem to have regard for the environment or public safety when you watch that video in its entirety. Attorney Daniels will touch on some of those points in a moment. This brutality cannot be tolerated. Anyone with an ounce of humanity can see that this was unjustifiable and excessive, the way he brutalized this black woman. What happened to chivalry? What happened to chivalry? Where a man was supposed to display, kindness to women, be gentlemen. Is chivalry dead in Jacksonville? Or is it only dead in Jacksonville when it comes to black women? This is troubling on many levels, and it goes beyond just Miss McGriff. You see, Reverend, we have this so-called halo law designed to stop citizens from recording police activity and inhibit their First Amendment rights. It left 2 innocent bystanders in jail for being present and recording while this brutal arrest was taking place. If law enforcement is protecting and serving, there is no reason for them not to be recorded. If Sheriff Waters knows there's a pattern and practice of brutalizing citizens with excessive force in the black community in Jacksonville, then wouldn't he want to see what his officers are actually doing? Wouldn't the public have a right to know so we can try to solve this problem? Why are we trying to hide the truth? Why don't we want to have our officers operate in sunshine where everybody can see what great officers they are? But is the reason they want bystanders to be far away and not recording so we won't get to see and hear what's happening. Anita Gibson and Jasmine Jefferson were charged with violating the HALO statute that requires a 25-foot buffer zone from law enforcement. These women did not impede the officer from arresting Miss McGriff. The officer did that by himself by continually escalating the situation. There was no de-escalation from this officer whatsoever. You all got to see the body cam video that went viral and was seen over 1 million times now in America. I'm sure by the end of the day it'll be 2 million times because people are starting to talk about this. But you all do understand that the sheriff released the body camera video trying to justify the brutality on Miss McGriff. And I think it fell flat on its face because when you look at that video, what it tells you is not only was that not justified, but it tells you the arrest of these 2 innocent black women who had humanity to say that don't do her like this. and asked for the PIN number on her cell phone once her daughter had given her the phone because she was a mother and she was concerned about her daughter and saying, well, who can we call? And for you doing that there, you're saying that she should be arrested and spend 72 hours in jail. A shame before God. I mean, think about that. Because because Miss Jefferson exhibited an ounce of humanity to say, what is the phone number? Who can I call to help your daughter? Don't do that to her in front of her child. She is arrested now under this law that the governor signed. And remember, go back, don't take Ben Crump's word for it. Go back and look at what his words were when he signed this law. He said there were too many people videotaping police officers and then having a narrative out there that was unfavorable to police. Those were his words. And they did it at the time when the young man in Chicago had been shot 91 times for a traffic violation. And people, law enforcement community was upset that people were videotaping their interactions with citizens and trying to call them into question and trying to hold them accountable and trying to say that these people have a right to equal justice under the law too. And for those reasons, they passed this unconstitutional law that is vague and ambiguous and arbitrary and capricious. And I mean, it flies in the very face of the First Amendment. And these black women are the first to be arrested under this law in the state of Florida. And so we have to make sure that just like when the Stand Your Ground law came and people didn't know how Trayvon got killed, well, this HALO law is going to become a word that everybody is talking about all across America, and these black women are going to be the martyrs that makes the world know that this HALO law is wrong. Right. It's just wrong. He arrested these women for being witnesses to the brutal and excessive arrest. We must not stand by as these women are the first to be charged under this unconstitutional law. We must fight back and say plainly that the HALO law is bad law. Public safety depends on accountability. Without people watching, we don't know what will happen. Can you imagine if there was no video? It happens to be George Floyd's birthday. If there was no video in the killing of George Floyd, can you imagine if there was no video in the brutal arrest of Erica McGriff? No, video is good. Transparency is good. Accountability is good. Because it all leads to trust. And isn't that what we want between law enforcement and the community? Trust. And that's what this is about, Sheriff Waters. Video is a good thing, not a bad thing. And let's continue to stand up for justice for these black women. The Jacksonville Three. Justice for the Jacksonville Three.
Justice for the Jacksonville Three.
Justice for the Jacksonville Three. Justice for the Jacksonville Three. At this time, you will hear from my co-counsel, a great lawyer who practices.
We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. This is a news conference that continues. There is Erica McGriff in that video that you saw. As Ben Crump was speaking, the arrest that has gone viral. You also heard the attorney Crump talking about the HALO Act and calling for what he says justice for the Jacksonville Three, 2 people arrested, believed to be the first arrests in the state in connection with that HALO Act. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Want to get you back to this news conference going on live now in Jacksonville as we hear attorneys representing the women arrested outside a charter school. Erica McGriff, the woman, was initially stopped by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office accused of illegally parking her car. That interaction escalated. You saw some of that body camera video, some of the cell phone video as well. 2 other women ended up being arrested for not giving a 25-foot buffer to law enforcement. We are hearing from attorneys representing these women speaking right now. I should note that Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters held a news conference about this the other day, releasing that body camera video that we played for you just a few minutes ago. I will play you his remarks coming up in just a little bit so that you can hear his perspective of things as well. But let's go ahead and listen back in as this news conference continues live in Jacksonville.
But today he's suffering from a brain injury, traumatic brain injury. You got a young lady over here that's just recently got out of jail because they say she violated the HALO law. That HALO law is one thing. I call it the lunar eclipse law in the sunshine state. A full lunar eclipse. Because designed and purpose to suppress people's First Amendment right. Yep. To observe law enforcement. To record law enforcement. Supreme Court of the United States said if you can observe, you can record. This law is unconstitutional because it allows officers to determine if you're 25 feet away. But more importantly, the law has components to it, this HALO law. And as Attorney Crump said, the video that Sheriff Waters put out shows that neither of these women violated the HALO law. Nope. Because the first thing first, you have to be warned. After they was told to back up, given 25 feet, Miss McGriff was already in the car. The incident was already over.
She already had her daughter at the school.
This young lady have already taken her to the school already. So the only design purpose was to try to intimidate, harass. And I'm saying this for a reason, because those are the words in the HALO law. The only thing was designed to intimidate and harass these young women, this one young lady, and put her in jail.
My Lord, my Lord.
It reminds us of something. Reminds people who went to try to sit down at lunch counters during the 60s. People who try to walk across a bridge to vote. Reminds us of something. People who try to exercise their constitutional right.
That part.
Being only denied, thrown in jail. And a preacher having to give a letter from a Birmingham jail saying justice delayed is justice denied. Enough is enough. Now, I'm not going to hold you because we had a lot. We can talk about this all day, but I'll assure you that this is another example. Egregiousness, unlawfulness, use of force. And when I saw the video being, thought about my mom, thought about my sister, my family, my daughter. And what would have happened if they took the position, in the same position, hey, I'm just trying to get my daughter and pick her up from the rain. Pick her up because she won't get wet. Listen, this is a point that we have to stand in unity. Because this is an ongoing occurrence here in Jacksonville, Duval County. And we have to acknowledge that this is not just a one-off. This is something that's progressively, that's continuing to happen in this community, and the community has to take a stand. Amen. Unified today, or unified to polls. I'm done. I'm done.
Thank you, Harry. Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3. Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
You know, it's good that we're in the house of the Lord, because what Sheriff Waters meant for bad, God meant it for good. That's right. That video That video really showed everything. It was even better than the cell phone video. Because it showed the one time the officer did give a warning. That's when he was putting her in the police car.
It was over.
It was over. Ms. Jefferson had already taken her 9-year-old daughter into school trying to figure out, is there a family member I can call because this baby just watched her mama get brutalized and now she's left here by herself. And that is such an important issue. It's tragic what happened to Miss McGriff, but it is tragic what happened to Miss Jefferson and Miss Gibson, two innocent bystanders who just had a heart. I mean, that's what you want people to do, have a heart. To say, hey man, this little girl crying, you beating her mama like that, that's not right. And you hear on the video saying, you know, don't do her like that, get off of her. Ma'am, what is your number? How can I contact somebody for you? And you hear her trying to give her the number. And so that's her crime, allegedly, for asking for the phone number, for having a heart. So she's facing criminal charges, so she's going to speak to you briefly, but I call her a hero. Yeah. They want to call her a criminal. I call her a hero. I call her an angel for having an ounce of humanity for your fellow human being. So, Ms. Jasmine, let me say this. Yeah, it comes down to trust. You all know how distrustful this Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has been to people who live in the black community. I mean, she gets a call. She's not arrested.
Ben Crump continuing to speak. We've got to get one more break in, so we're going to go ahead and take that now, try to get that in before we hear from this bystander who is also facing charges in connection with this. So keep it here on Fox 35 News Plus.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. We did hear very briefly from Jasmine, one of the people who recorded this interaction on video, now facing charges for violating the state HALO law, not giving a 25-foot buffer to law enforcement. She essentially said that she heard and saw what was happening. Her parental instincts kicked in and wanted to help. She said that was all. That was the extent of her remarks. We're now hearing from one of the other attorneys again. We'll go ahead and listen in for another few minutes here, and then we'll hear from the Jacksonville sheriff who spoke at a news conference the other day about this case. So let's go ahead and listen in.
Just for the sole purpose that they disagree with law enforcement. And this is only trying to censor her and put this mother in the Jacksonville County Jail. First time ever in the Jacksonville County Jail by protesting. And when the officer made the statement, she wasn't even there. The video shows it. Attorney Crump, right? Mm-hmm. She was gone. She had taken the child up to the school. Yep. So I want that you take a look at the video. You don't have to take Attorney Daniels, Attorney Crump. Look at the video. Look at the video.
Miss Jasmine,
this incident happened on a Tuesday. I was arrested on a Friday afternoon by Internal Affairs calling me, wanting to get a statement. That's it. They arrested me right on the spot.
72 hours.
Said I had a warrant for my arrest. I spent 72 hours in the Duval County Jail. I got out last night.
And all you was trying to do was
get a PIN code to a phone so I can call her grandmother.
My Lord.
I just got out last night.
It's not fair. It's not fair. That's why we got to fight for justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3. Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Justice for the Jacksonville 3.
Because if it can happen to them, it can happen to you. I mean, coming trying to re-engineer a narrative. Don't take my word, Ben Crump. Don't take Attorney Harry Daniels. Don't take Sheriff Waters' word for it. Go look at the videos for yourself. Look at the cell phone videos. Look at the police body camera video. And you look and determine whether you think Jasmine Jefferson should have been arrested and put in jail for 72 hours where she's now facing criminal charges just because she tried to help a 9-year-old little girl who was crying out for her mama.
And don't forget about Anita. She can do it.
And Anita Gibson. You gonna see on the video, she, even though she said, I ain't gotta go nowhere, she kept walking away. She didn't go, nobody went towards this officer. When he said get back, they walked away. The school principal, he didn't get charged. He was right there trying to pull off. That's why we say this law is arbitrary and capricious. It's selective prosecution. If you expose the police brutality, then they want to criminalize you. That's what this law is about. The final two people you'll hear from is briefly from Miss Erica McGriff, and you'll hear from her godmother, Carlotta. Erica. Take your time, whatever.
I asked the principal what was the proper procedure when picking up the walkers whenever it was raining. That's it. He explained to me the procedures. I then went to pick up my daughter. It began to rain. All I was trying to do was get my daughter out of the school, from out of school without getting wet, drenched in the rain. That's all. And none of this, everything that happened, that was just like uncalled for, and it's not fair.
Yeah, and that's fine. She can't say very much because she is facing criminal charges, so thank you, Erica. Her godmother, Miss Charletta, is going to talk about what they've been dealing with.
As I stand here right now, my stomach just dropped because I immediately went back to the video. I did not want to watch the video. My daughter was like, Mama, you have to see the video. You have to see the video. These are my children. That's my godchild. That's my sister. My sister, she can't even watch the video. Her mother cannot watch the video. You cannot imagine what it will do to a mother to see your child being dug into the ground, beaten, punched by a man. By a man. And all she went to do was go pick up her children, went to go pick up her child. It had no business going the way that it went. No. And now we're dealing with PTSD. We've never been in the military. I was married to the military twice. This should not be a part of a family. No. This should not be a part of the village, of the black community. PTSD brought on by the police department. Something has to be done. And this child will remember this for the rest of her days. The rest of her days. And that's what I'm here standing for. Because they can't come up here for themselves because of the trauma that is taking place. I'm looking out at her sisters and her nieces and nephews and her aunts and aunties now. You have no idea what this has done to this family. This one incident that could have just been so minute, so very little, escalated the way that it did, and it's not fair.
It's not fair. No. Justice for the Jacksonville 3. 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 Justice starts with all of us calling the state attorney's office, Melissa Nelson, and telling her to watch that video and drop these charges against these innocent bystanders for trying to have an ounce of humanity. That's what this is about. It's about looking at that video and telling the sheriff, this is excessive force. Don't condone this. Condemn this excessive force. Just like we asked him to condemn the excessive force on William McNeil. I mean, we notice a pattern starting to develop, Alfonso. That pattern is black citizen has a minor traffic violation that could be handled with a notice, a citation, a civil infraction, but it ends up being a brutal act of excessive force, where they can do the least intrusive thing, Senator Hill, they do the most every time. Look at the videos. They do the most. We don't see them doing this to white citizens. Our white sisters and brothers don't have to encounter this. Alfonso, somebody showed us a video of a white woman spitting in the officer's face, and nothing happened to her. But a black woman trying to pick up her daughter from school in the rain, all hell break loose. A young black college student calling the police out for driving while black, saying, you're lying, that it's not raining. I don't have to have my headlights on. But all hell breaks loose. And the sheriff seems to just look over all of that there and arrest bystanders who are videotaping. Shouldn't you be arresting the police officers who hit William McNeil versus arresting Jasmine Jefferson and Anita Gibson? I mean, yeah, we got work to do. We want good policing. We don't want you to protect and serve everybody else and assault and batter us. We just want equal justice under the law. Nothing more, nothing less. Sheriff Waters, we're not asking for anything more than you will give to the white citizens here in Jacksonville. That's all the black community is asking for. Nothing more. With that, Attorney Daniels and I will try to take some of your questions if you have any. Obviously, the clients won't be answering questions because they have these criminal charges hanging over their head. If you have any questions. Yes, ma'am.
This year, several stopped here in Duval County within the last few months. Are you planning a class action lawsuit against JSO?
Well, Attorney Daniels and I are exploring every possible legal avenue to hold the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office accountable. But more importantly, we don't want to have to keep coming back to have black people being brutalized and killed. I mean, that's what we praying for. We want to close down the police brutality department in our offices. But regrettably, it seems to be getting worse, especially here in Jacksonville, Florida. So everything is a possibility. Attorney Daniels, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
That's a good question. Actually, a part of that have already been filed in the William McNeil lawsuit. Of course, that continue to happen, and as excessive use of force continue to happen, obviously you can have amendments. So that issue have been taken up already. So if you look at the William McNeil lawsuit, we've already made a claim for Braxton Patterson against the sheriff directly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And you guys touched a lot today on payroll law. What specific legal action are you guys planning to take moving forward?
Well, we want to make sure these bogus charges are dropped first and foremost. And, I mean, she spent 72 hours in jail for trying to help a 9-year-old child crying out for her mother. We want to get accountability, and so we will keep you posted. First things first, we want these women to not be convicted of these bogus charges.
To add on top of that, so we are appalled that the sheriff can look at a video and somebody interpret a HALO law as they have interpreted to make charges against these innocent bystanders for protesting under given that First Amendment right. As Attorney Crump stated, we believe that the law as written is unconstitutional. And what we mean by that, it gives officers the ability, the discretion to decide what is considered 25 feet, what is considered by emotional distress, how the law is written. And the United States Supreme Court have already said those type of laws are unconstitutional because they the officer can be arbitrarily and capricious in enforcing those laws. As you see, as Attorney Crump stated, you had a school teacher, a principal, who was clearly impeding the officers trying to put Mr. Griffin in handcuffs, and he wasn't charged. So, I mean, you know, the officers being able to cherry pick who he want to charge, and that's a problem. I mean, I can be standing 26 feet, he can be standing 24 feet. How would an officer know depth perception? He's on the ground over here. You can't make that determination. And in this case, it's just bad facts. The video is crystal clear. You know, and it only lends to one thing, Attorney Crump, is that the sheriff is aiding and abetting the suppression of people's First Amendment rights.
That part.
That's all it is, aiding and abetting.
That part.
And trying to intimidate folks in the community. Don't record the police, because what he have seen, and this young lady asked this question, what we have seen, these video cameras are showing the real Jacksonville Sheriff Office.
That part.
Because they just started releasing body cameras in 2020 with Jamie Johnson case. Now you see what's really happening, and they're trying to prevent you from doing it. So they can say, well, it's okay to record, it's okay. Well, if it was okay to record, in this case, the recorder, the person who was recorded, whoever that person was, they clearly was closer than 25 feet. Where's that person at?
Yep.
It was weaponized against these two young women who protest against the officer unlawful action.
Yeah.
So,
hold on, let me say this here. You know, it's so deep. When you think about, and I work with a lot of young, smart people, Fazo, and they put a video together on social media showing William McNeil's brutal arrest and Erica McGriff's brutal arrest, both at the hands of Jacksonville Sheriff's deputies. And you know,
Attorney Ben Crump, and he's talking about, he's now referenced multiple times the case of William McNeil Jr., another client of his who he represents. That was another arrest in Jacksonville that went viral in the past couple of months. He was the one who was sitting in the driver's seat of his car and had resisted some commands from an officer who had pulled him over. And in that viral video showing the officer punching through the glass and then reaching in to drag him out of the car, they mentioned the lawsuit that was filed against that. William McNeil Jr. is also there right now at this news conference. We saw him a little bit earlier during one of the wide shots of this news conference. This news conference is continuing. Attorney Ben Crump speaking live right now in Jacksonville, wanting charges dropped against the two women who are charged with violating the state's new HALO law. Then we also heard briefly from Erica McGriff, the woman at the center of this case. And she is charged with battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting an officer with violence, operating a motor vehicle while having a driver's license that's revoked as a habitual traffic offender. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
On the face of
Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now, and Brooks, we could see some more cool temperatures.
Yes, what a week, right?
I know.
You're a runner. Has it been a noticeable change?
It's been so noticeable. It's been very nice. I walked out this morning. It was still dark, obviously, and I walk out, and I'm like, I've got my shorts on, running without a shirt. And in the summer, that's a necessity.
You have to, right?
But I walked out this morning. I'm like, kind of chilly.
You're like, maybe I should put a T-shirt on.
Right.
They're gonna think you're crazy. Like, first of all, it's before sunrise. Second of all, it's 63 degrees outside, and why isn't this man wearing a shirt? Right. Well, it's good that you smartened up, got that T-shirt going. But yeah, no, beautiful weather, great weather for running. Highs in the 80s, and we're gonna enjoy this all week long. But we've got a couple of flies in the ointment or gnats in the eyeball. If you're out early enough, you'll get those waves of bugs in the face. But look at this beautiful shot. Sunshine in Orlando right now. We are living right. Daytona Beach looking great as well after a very rocky weekend. All the surge from that nor'easter, that low pressure on the coast that pulled all the water on shore, causing pretty significant erosion. That's at least at low tide right now, taking a break. Now, the tides are going to get back to normal for the most part here for the next 3 weeks. But once we hit November 6th, that's when things are going to change. We've got a full beaver moon, which is a supermoon. That means it's closer to the Earth than other moons as far as its orbit goes. And it happens to be the closest orbit of the entire year coming toward Earth. So it makes the tides really dramatic. So point being, we've got another king tide on the way, the biggest tide of the year, and it comes in November 6th. And if we have a coastal storm in the vicinity when that happens, which is totally possible, we may be looking at some more issues on the beach. Dangerous rip currents today, despite the waves kind of knocking down a little bit. Waves about 2 to 4 feet, better than yesterday's 10-foot waves. Great for the surfers, but dangerous for swimming. 85 today, Orlando, 84 Ocala. Just soak it in. Beautiful, beautiful weather today. 83 in Titusville, because we got some changes coming our way. Tomorrow, we've got a reinforcing shot of some cooler and drier weather coming in for the end of this week. It'll produce some clouds for Wednesday and Thursday, and a couple of showers, and maybe some drizzle. Tomorrow, a couple of showers possible between 3 and 6. It's about a 30% chance for rain. On Thursday, we'll have a lot of clouds around, about a 20% chance for precipitation. However, it's going to be kind of drizzly in spots, kind of misty, and kind of cloudy. But that's going to keep things cooler. So it's going to feel pretty decent outside, I think, with highs closer to 80 degrees. Our next storm system, though, is way out west. There's a low pressure system that is very out of season for this time of year right now. We typically see this in the winter months, but the jet stream is very amplified, and so we're seeing this in October. And this is producing flash flooding in the burn-scarred regions of Southern California. If you remember, had those horrific fires in the LA County area as well as in Santa Barbara County. There's also severe thunderstorm watches. Point being, this thing has some punch to it. The grit it has is going to assert itself in many ways, and wherever it goes, it's going to bring with it bad weather, and it's going to go straight across the country. That's why we're watching it. There will be anywhere between a foot and up to 2 feet of snow falling above 7,000 feet in the high Sierra of California, and there could be upwards of 6 to 10 inches of snow. Mount Baldy, these are the mountains you could see from LA. Big Bear Mountain up toward Mammoth. I mean, it's going to be their first winter system. Now, the upper level energy, you can see the spin. This is that upper level fuel that can produce the fire that is severe weather. Moves into the deep south and the mid-south for this weekend, bringing a severe weather threat to Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, and northern Louisiana. And then it finally makes it to Florida by Monday of next week, where we may have some storms here to track. It's too soon to make a call on if they'll be severe or if they will even be storms, but that would be our next weather maker. And from here on out, we're going to see fronts producing the rain. We're done with the rainy season. That whole 3 o'clock afternoon storm thing is done for the season. We've got the drier air here, so all of our precip will be coming from systems, some of them potentially tropical. We can have tropical systems as late as November 30th. That's the hurricane season. And of course, in 2022, we had Hurricane Nicole hit in early November, just as a case in point. This is Tropical Storm Lorenzo, and it'll be moving out to the eastern Atlantic. It's a weak system. Behind it, we've got a tropical wave, which could become Melissa. Melissa's the next on the list, and that one has potential as we get into late next week of bringing some bad weather to the Caribbean, the Windward Islands, Barbados, and eventually into the Western Caribbean, maybe Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico in about 2 weeks. But for us, a little bump in the road there with a chance for a couple of showers midweek, and then a beautiful end to the week and a pretty decent weekend ahead as well. But no more humidity as far as like the sustained dew points in the mid-70s, unless there's like an approaching tropical system. Even then it would be brief.
With these temperatures and that lower humidity, it's nice.
It's the chef's kiss.
Right, no doubt about that. Fox 75 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure as always. Thank you, Garrett.
We're going to go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but I want to give you this live look at downtown Orlando on this Tuesday morning. Keep it right here. We've got more to come live on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us live on Fox Local and on YouTube. That news conference in Jacksonville has wrapped up, where we heard from Attorney Ben Crump, a number of others, speaking about this arrest in Jacksonville that's gotten a lot of attention. As I mentioned while we were listening to that news conference a couple of times, that I did want to go ahead and play for you what we heard, some remarks from the Jacksonville Sheriff, T.K. Waters. He held a news conference about this on Friday, releasing the body camera video that I played for you, and talking about this case. He, in these remarks you're about to hear, he warns folks that attacks against law enforcement won't be tolerated. He also answered some questions from reporters.
So what's today's takeaway? If you violently resist our officers, if you punch them, if you bite them, you will be arrested. If you crowd and harass our officers or any first responder after a verbal warning, you will be arrested. JSO will always hold accountable those who violate the law. But this entire episode reaches beyond even law violations. It speaks to the breakdown of civil society that some in our community not only quietly accept, but actively promote. So beyond breaking the law, these adults committed these acts in front of vulnerable and impressionable school children. These adults modeled and normalized for school-age children not only breaking the law, but also lying to the police, violently resisting the police, punching police officers, biting a police officer, and harassing a police officer, and encumbering a police officer. Officer Holton was simply doing his job. Disappointingly, this negative modeling had direct consequences here. Currently, there's an active pickup order for a juvenile for making threats to shoot up Idea Charter School because of this incident. So JSO will not tolerate those who violate the law and victimize our officers or any member of our communities. These jobs are tough enough without all of that. So we reject the flawed theory promoted by some that this type of unprovoked violence is shown to police officers is somehow justified. I ask every member of this community who enjoys the privileges of a civil society, one organized by laws, to reject this flawed theory. No one is above the law. No one should be hurt or hinder a public servant doing the work that is a critical function to our community. So now I'll take any questions that you all may have.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
The black male with the beard, he was in the patterned shirt.
Yeah.
The umbrella that
Yeah.
represented the Alpha fraternity. Who was that?
He's one of the school administrators. So if you'll see, the school administrators were there trying to keep everyone back. And largely, in my opinion, they helped keep that officer at least with some sort of comfort level while he's engaged with that individual.
Where were the individuals in the video that were violating the halo?
So there was an elderly, an older lady wearing a pinkish red shirt. I believe at one point she used an expletive and said she wasn't even worried about the 25 feet. And then there was a young girl. You saw her come in later after things started wrapping up a bit. You saw her come in later and grab the phone. She was one of the ones that was standing there with a lot of the chirping that was going on.
The one who got the phone, what happened to that person?
She's going to be arrested.
Oh. Also, you'd say the officer was doing his job. He followed all the JSO training.
Yeah. So the first thing we do, before we even do this stuff, before we bring it out here, we look at it. We send it to our experts, our use of force experts, to look at everything that he does in that process. And he followed the rules. He followed the laws. It's shocking to me that you square up to fight a police officer just maybe when you're going to get a citation. You're probably going to end up going to jail because it's a third-degree felony for a revoked habitual traffic violator license. But it's remarkable to me that you're willing to stand up and go toe to toe, which is, I can't understand that.
Was the officer there doing traffic for the idea school? And as far as, I know there was a scuffle getting her into restraint.
Yeah.
Can you explain what took so long, and also were there other officers, I guess, who were on the way?
He was the only one that was there. He was there by himself. There were other officers that were on the way, but you know, sometimes if you're in different locations, Tarek, it takes a little bit to get there. He was, I believe, I didn't speak to him directly. I believe he was trying to hold her until she kind of gassed out, and then eventually you saw, you know, put her hands behind her back so he can get those handcuffs on her.
She was saying that she couldn't breathe. It was kind of hard to tell what exactly kind of.
Yeah, I'll give you a test. Jake, I'll give you a test. Go home and let your wife choke you and try to talk. You can see, you can hear whether someone's being, their airways being blocked or you can't talk. She could breathe. He was using, if you look underneath, you can see that his hands weren't even knotted together where he was pulling. He was just holding her to make sure that he could keep control of her. And it's pretty obvious he didn't want to go too far. He wanted to make sure he followed the rules and made sure he did this the best way that he could. And I commend him for that. The hard part is this is not an easy job. And it's not getting any easier. Now, we all volunteer to do this, right? We want to do this because we love where we live. It's not an easy job, and it's making it more difficult when police officers come out here and try to affect the law lawfully and do the things that we're supposed to do, and then you get surrounded like that. It's dangerous. Anything can happen. So we want to make sure that we let folks know as part of a public service announcement that if you do this and you're asked not to do it, you're going to get arrested because we're going to review it and you're going to get arrested. I care about this community being safe, and I care about the police officers that work here being safe, which is very important. You have to have some comfort level that you're going to know that you can go out there, take care of your job, and go home safely. So we want to make sure people understand that.
Is this the first time JSO's made an arrest using the HALO law?
This is the very first time, yes, sir.
Sheriff, to follow up on Tarek's question.
Yeah.
Was he working the school zone?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't answer that.
Or was he just passing through?
No, he was working at school, not a school zone. So we have a safe schools program. You know, when after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas situation.
He was the resource officer there.
No, he wasn't a resource officer. Illegally parked in the roadway, and it was still running. And I think this is just an assumption. I want to make sure you're clear. We're clear on this. I think he saw that. Someone talked to him about that because that's part of his duties there when school's letting out. And when he began to approach and have the discussion, you saw how it played out from there.
So Griff was arrested. The woman in the pink shirt, she was arrested.
Yes.
And the person who later in the video broke the HALO's violation to grab the phone, that person will be arrested.
Yes, and that juvenile has a pickup order for threatening the school.
Oh. So how does this work for officers? I mean, I know the HALO law's been in effect, but just as far as it would be more of a priority put on having that space so officers can do their job.
Yeah, so we'll train on it. We'll make sure we discuss, and they normally do that. You know, you get yourself in a situation like that, you normally say, get back, give me some space. But we'll train on it to make sure that they give that warning to get back. Sometimes if it's bad enough, Tarek, they're not going to be able to say, you have to give me 25 feet. They're going to say, get back, and that's going to serve as that warning to get back. So we'll train on it to make sure that happens, and we'll move from here. My hope is that we don't have those issues. I don't mind people, and I can tell you this, I don't mind people standing beyond 25 feet, videoing or saying what you're going to say, because people are going to do that, and you have the right to say what you want to say. But if it gets to a point where it creates an uncomfortable level for our police officer who may or may not get hurt by someone in a crowd, then we have to draw the line.
Sheriff TK Waters speaking on Friday about that same case. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus, live look at Capitol Hill, day 14 of the federal government shutdown. Republicans and Democrats still unable to reach a deal to reopen the government. We have also seen several airports across the country that are refusing to play a video of Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. That is one of the things that Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about at a news conference earlier today when he and other Republicans in leadership talked about where things stand, again, 2 weeks now of these government shutdown.
Today, we'd be remiss if we did not make some remarks about the extraordinary historic moment, or many moments, that happened yesterday in Israel. The world's eyes are still fixed on Israel, where President Trump is welcoming home now the last of the hostages who've endured 2 years in Hamas captivity. I thought it was remarkable. I saw a video last night of one of the released hostages who made the point that as soon as the election was held in November in the United States, Hamas began to treat him and his fellow hostages much better. They fed them better, they respected them more, they changed the tone of how they treated them, they no longer spit upon them. As he said in his own words, elections have consequences. And he said or implied that the Hamas was counting on Kamala Harris to win and not President Donald J. Trump. But thankfully for the whole world, that didn't happen. And this is an historic moment. It deserves enormous credit and recognition on the world stage. It's truly, truly historic. For generations, we have aspired to peace in the Middle East, everyone around the world, and now President Trump has delivered it. I'm going to make an announcement today. It's the announcement in the U.S. that was made in the Knesset yesterday. I'm proud to tell you that together with my friend Speaker Ohana of the Israeli Knesset, the equivalent of our Congress, we're going to embark upon a project together to rally speakers and presidents of parliaments around the world so that we will jointly nominate President Donald J. Trump for next year's Nobel Peace Prize. No one has ever deserved that prize more, and that is an objective fact. As Speaker Ohana said before the Knesset yesterday, quote, "Whoever saves one life, it is though he has saved an entire world." That's what some of the rabbis there would say, some of the sages he noted would say. It's an indisputable fact that no president has undertaken the work of saving lives and pursuing peace with such determination and with such remarkable success as President Trump. And under his leadership, we are witnessing the dawn of a new golden age, not just for America, but for the entire free world. The world is changed by these actions and strong leadership. American strength is good for free people around the world, as we say always, and peace through strength is maintained. There will be more to share on this in the weeks ahead, but today marks the start of this effort that we'll embark upon together, this joint parliamentary project, and I'm honored to do it alongside our ally and my counterpart in Israel in leading that effort. Welcome to day 14 of the Democrat government shutdown. It's 2 weeks of Democrats in Congress inflicting untold pain on the American people for nothing other than pure politics, as we've explained at this podium every day of the shutdown. Today, Senate Democrats will have their 8th chance to end this mess by passing our clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution, the government funding bill that would end all of this immediately. Over 3 weeks ago, the House passed that bill, and you all know the details of it. It is completely clean. There are no policy changes, no partisan riders, no gimmicks or tricks at all. All it does is keep the lights on at the current funding levels for a few extra weeks while we complete the normal appropriations process. Now compare that to the Democrats' counterproposal. They're demanding $1.5 trillion in new spending paid for by American taxpayers. And I want you to be specific. I want us to be specific. I want you to note what that counterproposal includes, because we've not yet gone into all the details of it, because it's large and very absurd. But here's some of the highlights of this. It would reverse common sense reforms that Republicans made in the Working Families Tax Cut that keep illegal aliens off taxpayer-funded health care. This is a fact. Page 57, Section 2141 of their counterproposal, as we've been posting everywhere. And it would, they would add the illegal aliens, non-citizens, back to taxpayer-funded benefits. It would cost taxpayers nearly $200 billion. They would also remove a very reasonable and modest work requirement that we put on able-bodied young men with no dependents. As we've said, they should not be riding the wagon and taking Medicaid. That is intended for vulnerable populations, the elderly, disabled, and young pregnant women, for example, and not young able-bodied men without dependents who are playing video games. We put that into the law because it's common sense. Their counterproposal would reverse that. So taxpayers would be funding them again. They would make in their counterproposal permanent COVID-era Obamacare subsidies without any income caps or any other reforms at all. They would make that permanent. That would cost taxpayers an estimated $358 billion. They would take away the $50 billion that we put into the law to support rural hospitals. They would remove that. And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets by refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is in their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI+ democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that. These are unserious proposals from unserious people, and they are playing games while real Americans are being harmed adversely by the shutdown. Yesterday, I read you an excerpt from President Obama's speech during the 2013 shutdown when he advocated for a clean CR to reopen the government and resume negotiations. It sounded very familiar. Democrats cheered him on back then, including Chuck Schumer. He himself said some Republicans' refusal to support a clean CR back then was, quote, the politics of idiocy. Take him at his word. So yesterday we decided to do a little count of the number of times that Chuck Schumer has supported continuing resolutions just since he became the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in 2017. That number came out to 29 out of 30 continuing resolutions. That's how many times he wholeheartedly, enthusiastically supported CRs enacted into law. That's a 97% support rate. What's changed? Well, this time his job is on the line. And we've explained this very clearly because everybody can see the obvious political motivation here behind his decision to shut the government down right now. He helped us avert a shutdown in March by doing the right thing and supporting virtually the identically same continuing CR that we're offering today. And his radical base went crazy, and they haven't forgiven him for it. That's why Chuck Schumer is opposed to it today. That's what changed. It's very obvious. This government shutdown is plainly and simply an exercise in image rehabilitation. This is an attempt at image rehabilitation for Chuck Schumer. So selfishly, completely about himself, he is shutting the government down to hurt other people. He needs to show a fight against President Trump so he can keep his left base happy through the next election cycle. How do we know that? Well, his record shows the obvious truth about it. Again, look at the numbers. Chuck Schumer supported CRs to help avert a government shutdown 29 out of 30 times as leader of his party. And he emphatically supported every single CR enacted into law since 2017, except for one. And of course, you won't have to do much research to figure out who was in the White House during that time. If you said Donald Trump, you'd be right. And it doesn't take a genius to see that's exactly the Why does Chuck Schumer say that? Because that's how he's operated for decades. He's been in Congress since 1980. I was 9 years old in the 3rd grade when Chuck Schumer got here, okay? He is the broken status quo. We are trying to break the status quo so government works better for the people. And Chuck Schumer is resistant to that because he can't even imagine the way the founders intended for this to work. He doesn't want this open, everybody involved, all members, bottom-up process. He wants 4 people to go in a back room and just make this deal and hoist it down upon everybody else. I'm not participating in that. Chuck Schumer doesn't like that. He doesn't like that we're trying to get Washington to work again because he doesn't know how to operate in that kind of system. And we're certainly not going to allow the American people to be taken hostage for his political gain. I'm going to hand it off first here to the indomitable Dr. Virginia Fox. She is the chairwoman of our House Rules Committee. We call her the Iron Lady of the House. I know she has a lot to say about Democrats' obstruction. She's going to lay out some of the indisputable facts of this government shutdown. Dr. Fox?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks for your continued work in calling attention to the facts. You remain consistent and concise in explaining to the American people that the Democrats have shut down the government. And thank you to the members of our leadership team and members of the entire conference who've been equally as vocal and engaged. I've listened to the arguments that Democrats have been making since they shut down the government, and I cannot help but shake my head in utter disgust every time. They continue to lie like a rug. They're trying desperately to change the conversation and deflect because they know they're in the wrong and they've dug themselves into a deep, deep hole. We've now entered day 14 of their government shutdown, and as the days go on, more Americans are feeling the pain. Make no mistake about it. This is real pain being inflicted upon real people. Today, 400,000 federal workers will receive partial paychecks. The Speaker called attention to this last week. This will be the last paycheck that these federal workers receive until Democrats grow a spine and reopen the federal government. Meanwhile, you have Chuck Schumer in the Senate who said in a recent interview, quote, "Every day gets better for us," end quote. His statement is as callous as it is tone deaf, and it reveals to everyone how the Democrats continue to use hardworking Americans as pawns in their own grotesque political game. I'll close with a quick observation. As the Speaker said previously, there's a real split screen here in Washington that the American people are watching. While Republicans are the ones who have voted and are continuing to vote to reopen the government, Democrats have treated their own shutdown as one big attention-getting activity. They've taken shutdown selfies, posted weird videos of themselves doing everything except working, and they even hosted a live stream that failed to gain any traction whatsoever. How embarrassing. These are not serious people. They continue to play a dangerous game with the livelihoods of Americans. And contrary to what Democrats believe, every day of this shutdown does not get any better for the American people. That's a stone cold fact. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chair Fox. And as the Speaker talked about, a lot of people say, why have the Democrats continued this charade of shutting down the government and inflicting pain, real pain on millions of families across America? And the Speaker laid it out real clear. Chuck Schumer filed an alternative bill weeks ago of his list of demands, literally a list of demands that he said have to be met before he releases the American people from this torrential pain he's inflicting. And it includes $1.5 trillion of new spending on far-left wish lists. Things like, yes, taxpayer-funded health care for illegals. It's in Chuck Schumer's bill. He guts rural hospitals, all as part of his demand to open up the government. It's not only not serious, it's also destructive. It's something that would actually hurt this country. And why? All so that he can show the radicals and the far left of his party that he's fighting Donald Trump. Everybody knows that's what this is about. Chuck Schumer is scared to death for his political future. He is way more concerned about his political job than he is about the jobs of millions of American families. And it's having a real impact on those families. Today, as has been pointed out, day 14 of the government shutdown that Chuck Schumer imposed on the country, and it is the day where checks would normally be starting to be processed for all of the government workers, many of whom will not get a paycheck because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. You're already starting to see flight delays, families trying to go visit a relative, maybe go see one of their family members get married, go on a family vacation. They're not able to do that because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. Our men and women in uniform at risk of losing their pay. And I will credit Donald Trump for a lot of things, but if you look, President Trump has not sat by and just waited for Chuck Schumer to get over his tantrum. President Trump has continued to do his job for the American people. And thank God, because the world is a safer place with President Trump at the helm. We saw that yesterday. What an historic day. And again, a real contrast to the temper tantrum that Chuck Schumer's having to appease the most radical elements of the far left base here in America. President Trump traveled to Israel, traveled to Egypt to sign historic peace accords, to oversee the release of hostages. Finally, all of the living hostages returned home to their loved ones after more than 2 years since the October 7th attack by Hamas. And one of the hostages, I think it's really important to hear this, because when you talk about real leadership, not just here in America, and the leadership that President Trump has provided to our country, but what that leadership means to the world, not only to our allies, but to the bad guys around the world. And yes, there are really bad people around the world. One of the former hostages who was released yesterday, Omar Shem Tov, credited President Trump with getting the hostages home. And he said, Hamas, quote, was very scared of Trump. They wanted Kamala to be elected. As soon as Donald Trump was elected, they understood that he wanted to bring us back home. So immediately, the way they treated me changed. That was a direct quote from one of the hostages who was released yesterday. You can see that leadership by President Trump on the world stage, and just such an historic day, a day where people were literally dancing in the streets in Middle Eastern countries. Peace in the Middle East. It used to be a platitude that for decades seemed to be a mirage in the desert, and yesterday it became a reality because Donald Trump said he was going to do something that nobody else thought could be done, but he knew it had to be done, and he made it happen and gave so much closure, important closure to those families, brought their loved ones back home, but told the bad guys that you're on alert. It's a new day in the world. You're seeing all countries come together to see that moment in Egypt where countries from all around the world stood up to terror and said, we're going to restore peace in the Middle East. We're all going to be a part of it. And there's only one man that brought that together, and it was Donald Trump. Even during a time where the contrast of Chuck Schumer throwing a temper tantrum here at home just to appease the most radical elements of his base, so that on the 18th, when they have the Hate America rally that everybody knows is coming, and that everybody knows Chuck Schumer needs to deliver a shutdown government to them to appease them. Well, how about you think about us? How about you think about those families who are struggling today because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown? There are real consequences to what Chuck Schumer is doing. Regardless of who he thinks he's appeasing, he is hurting so many people, millions and millions of people. But President Trump is not going to be daunted. President Trump found a way over the weekend to pay our troops. While he was finding peace in the Middle East, President Trump also found a way to say, even while Chuck Schumer doesn't care about our men and women in uniform, Donald Trump does. And he made sure that they will get their pay. But there's still so many others that won't because of Chuck Schumer's shutdown. This madness has to end. It is time for this shutdown to end. Chuck, don't wait for some mad march on the mall. Don't wait for some pats on the back for radical leftists who just want to hate America every single day because Donald Trump is in the White House. They can't celebrate the release of hostages because of the guy who achieved that release. That's a twisted, small segment of our society. The rest of America is celebrating. The rest of America is proud of what we're achieving. And there's so much more that this great country can achieve if Chuck Schumer just got out of the way, just stopped blocking the progress that most Americans cherish, want, deserve. Our country deserves a whole lot better than what we're getting from the failed leadership. And as Speaker Johnson said, maybe it's because Chuck Schumer's been around too long and wants to hold on to the old way of doing things, the failed way of doing things, that he won't let it go. He won't allow a new, more transparent process for running the United States government. That you're seeing this leadership team, this president, delivering every single day. Chuck Schumer wants to hold on to the past, but the future is calling, and we're going to deliver. With that, let's bring up our whip.
As the Speaker noted, today should be a day of celebration. President Trump achieved a historic peace deal in the Middle East. The last living hostages held in captivity by Hamas have been returned with their families, reunited with their families. Yet, we're all here today marking day 14 of the Democrat shutdown. And to make matters even worse, if the Democrats had things their way, this would also mark the first week that our troops would not receive their paychecks. But thanks to the leadership of our Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, members of the military and their families will not be used as pawns in Chuck Schumer's shutdown game. Come tomorrow, our troops will get paid. But the consequences of the Democrat shutdown are real. And unfortunately, they're only just getting started. OMB has already been forced to lay off its first round of federal workers. It doesn't have to be this way. Chuck Schumer, if you open the government today, this would end. If the Democrat shutdown continues, though, more Americans won't see a paycheck at the end of this month. Benefits like SNAP will be put at risk. Airports will be flooded with flight cancellations and delays amid the busiest time to travel all year. And the list goes on and on. Why? Because Chuck Schumer and the Democrats would rather cater to the pro-terrorist wing of their party than to reopen our government. We've said it from this podium, it feels like 1,000,000 times, and we'll say it again. Republicans have done our job. We have a nonpartisan clean CR ready in the Senate to be sent to President Trump's desk immediately, tonight, if they will pass it. We only need 5 Senate Democrats to break ranks with Chuck Schumer, vote for the same CR that they supported just 6 months ago, and reopen the government for the people they were elected to serve. But they have refused to do so 7 times and counting. And each time that they do, hardworking Americans are forced to pay the price. Our message to Senate Democrats today is the same message we've been saying since September 19th. Stop the political games, pass our clean CR, and reopen the government today. With that, I turn it over to our conference chair, Lisa McClay.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. And like my leadership team behind me said, it is a glorious day. Think of what happened yesterday. Just imagine for one moment you are a family member of one of the 20 hostages that were released. I mean, think of how that had to make you feel. We all watched it on TV. Joy, exuberation. I mean, there were tears of joy. There was relief. There was peace. And that was done because of our president, Donald Trump, put politics aside and said, I am going to stand up for the people. And he brought peace in the Middle East. He talked about it, yes, but yesterday he did it. And actions speak louder than words. He said enough of the political games, and I'm actually going to do what's right. Now compare and contrast that to what's going on today. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are putting politics over people. So instead of it being a joyous day that we celebrate, here we are in another government shutdown, 14 days in the making. And why? Just ask yourself why. It's clean, no gimmicks. It's absolutely clean. The speaker, the leader, the whip, we all said no gimmicks. Let's not use the American people as a pawn. Let's do what's right. Let's do something different and actually fund the government in the right way. What a concept. And Democrats, my goodness gracious, they absolutely do not want that to happen. Like the speaker said, Chuck Schumer wants all four leaders to get behind the scenes and make a deal. We're not going to do that. That's not how government is supposed to work. And I know I sound like a broken record, but the way to end this shutdown is really, really simple. Pass the bipartisan clean funding bill that the House approved weeks ago. The Republicans voted to keep the government open. Call your Democratic senators. They're voting to keep it shut, not us. So when you ask what negotiation, there's nothing to negotiate. We already passed. We said yes, right? Democrats won't do it. They'd rather please their radical base than put America first. Listen, I'm grateful to President Trump for finding a way to keep milk flowing to moms and babies through the WIC and paychecks going to our troops. Yes, I'm happy, but that's not going to last forever, right? So there again, he's even putting people over politics. I mean, come on. But let's be clear. These emergency measures can't fully fix the Democrats' damage. He can try, but at some point in time, they're going to end. Sadly, as Americans suffer, Democrats, what do? They celebrate. As workers worry about their paycheck, Bernie Sanders worries about his leverage. As TSA agents and air traffic controllers show up without pay, Democrats brag they won't budge until planes fall out of the sky. Really? Really? Seriously. That's the Democrats' motto. I'm not budging till planes fall out of the sky. I'm going to teach you women, you women and children and everybody a lesson. Really? Really? As Chuck Schumer says, it's getting better every day. For who, Chuck? Better for who? For the radicals cheering on the chaos? That's who. The radicals. The leaders openly admit it. Listen, the head of the insane indivisible literally said, and I quote, "Millions will be out cheering you on, or they'll be calling for new leadership." Really? I thought they were supposed to lead for the American people. Democrats, I ask you to stop listening to people who are cheering on this mayhem. Just stop all the political games and pass the House bill. Free the American people from being held hostage by your radical base.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Manu, go ahead.
You've been doing this every single day, coming up here trying to pressure Senate Democrats. They've been not budging. They've blocked this bill time and time again. So at what point, for the good of the country, do you need to change your strategy to try to negotiate a deal with them?
It's a great question. Manu asks, why don't I change my strategy? I don't have any strategy, Manu. I'm doing the right thing, the clearly obvious thing, the traditional thing. That's exactly what Chuck Schumer voted for in March of this year and gave impassioned speeches was the right and only thing. I don't have anything to negotiate. I'll say this again to everyone here. We did not load up the temporary funding bill with any Republican priorities or partisan priorities at all. I don't have anything that I can take off of that document to make it more palatable for them. So all I am able to do is come to this microphone every day, look right into the camera and plead with the American people, as Chairwoman McClain said, to call your Senate Democrats and ask them to do the right thing. We're not playing games. They're playing a game. We're not. The strategy is to do the right and obvious thing and keep the government moving for the people. Their position is this, Manu. Their position is they want to spend $1.5 trillion in your tax dollars to fund nonsense overseas. They want to give $200 billion to illegal aliens. We are not going to do that. We're not going to do it. The American people don't want us to do it. And they're using this for partisan political purposes to give themselves cover. They don't want the Marxist to kick. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to get a Marxist candidate challenge, AOC or someone else. Mamdani is probably going to be sadly, shockingly, the mayor of New York City. Marxism is on the rise. Hey, this is not your father's Democratic Party, everybody, okay? They're turning into communists openly. And so Chuck Schumer does not fashion himself as a communist just yet. So he's got to show a fight to these people. That's what this is about. I'm not playing his game, Manu. I cannot go in and say, oh, gee, Chuck, what can I offer you? You know what? Maybe we'll just send $10 billion overseas to LGBTQ plus, initiatives in, the Horn of Africa or Malaysia or wherever you want to do that. No, we're not wasting taxpayers' dollars. Chad.
Mr. Speaker, good morning. Thank you. You said last week that you would swear in Adelita Golova whenever she wants. She's written a letter to your office. You've not sworn her in.
Yeah.
I understand about pro forma sessions.
Yes.
Doesn't your resistance to not swear her in add fuel to the fire that this is about the Epstein?
No. Let's talk about Grijalva and Epstein. Okay. Once more for everybody. Everybody in Congress, I think, is for maximum transparency of the Epstein files. That is underway right now. Let me point out before I go further, all of the files were in the possession of the Biden-Harris Department of Justice for 4 years. Every single thing that we're talking about right now was in their sole possession. They could have released it. They could have done anything. Ro Khanna, all the Democrats who are jumping up and down making noise about this, didn't say a peep about it for 4 years. I don't know why, but this is another partisan manufactured thing. Is it a serious problem? Yes. I've sat with the victims, some of the ladies who bravely have come forward and talked about the horrors that they sustained because of traffickers on Epstein Island and all the things he was involved in. Everybody involved in that should have the full weight of justice descend upon their head. And we're all for that. We want every single person who had anything to do with that to be exposed. But there's as many as 1,000 victims estimated. That's what the victims say. There may be 1,000 women who were made to suffer these unspeakable harms because of this. Many of them were underage at the time. They have not all chosen to come forward like some of these other brave women have for obvious reasons. And we have to make sure that when the files are released, their names are redacted so they don't suffer further harm. We have a duty and a responsibility. You can't just wave a wand and just open the floodgates. You have to make sure that the victims don't suffer additional harms. That's all we've said. Let's make sure it's done the right way. That's underway, by the way. The House Oversight Committee asked the Democrats and Republicans on that committee who are working on that vigorously. As I said, some of the biggest, bulldogs in Congress are on that committee, and they're all joined together in a bipartisan fashion, digging through and releasing documents. 34,000 documents so far, and more on the way. In fact, as I noted a couple of days ago, the attorneys for the House Oversight Committee during the shutdown are still doing work. They were in New York City combing through the Epstein estate files. By the way, that was never even mentioned or anticipated in the discharge petition, for those of you who are following all the details of this. So more is coming out. We're for all of it coming out as soon as possible. The only thing we want to make sure of is that the innocent victims are protected, and I think we have a responsibility to do that. With regard to Grijalva, our dear friend from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, won a special election back in 2021. It was in March, as I remember. Speaker Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath of office to her. Now, no Democrats, jumped up and down and screamed about that, nor do I recall any Republicans, because everybody understood this is the process of the House. You do it as soon as you're able to do it. Ms. Grijalva won her election, and credit to her. She's going to fill her father's seat I congratulate her. We're happy for her to serve. I'm going to be happy to administer the oath to her as I am to every member who wins a dual, who is duly elected to this body. It's a great honor. But she won her election after the House was out of session. So we've not had a full session. She deserves to have all the pomp and circumstance that everybody else does. She deserves to have a full House of members and go down and do the speech and have her family and friends in the balcony. That hasn't been scheduled because we haven't had that session yet. As soon as Chuck Schumer opens the government, as soon as Mark Kelly and Senator Gallegos, the two senators from Arizona, Ms. Grijalva's state, will go and join with 3 others and open the government, we're happy. We'll have that as soon as we get back to business. But we have to get back to business. They have to open the government. I don't know how else I can answer that question. Yes, sir.
Ahead of some of the planned protests in theory this weekend, and in light of some of the images we've seen out of Chicago of federal agents shooting faith leaders with pepper balls and arresting journalists, where's the limit for you on what's acceptable conduct for federal law enforcement, and when is it incumbent on Congress to step up and demand oversight?
To demand oversight on federal law enforcement? Well, I've not seen them cross the line yet, and that we have committees of jurisdiction who have that responsibility, but it's not risen to that level. What I've seen is the abuse of law enforcement by radical leftist activists. You know, most recently, the most threatening thing I've seen yet was the naked bicyclers in Portland who were protesting ICE down there. I mean, it's getting really ugly. They have attacked, physically assaulted officers. People have been arrested, okay? This is serious business. And ICE and the valiant, brave, patriotic Americans who step up to serve in these dangerous law enforcement positions deserve our respect and our support. And any elected member of this body should be vocally supporting law enforcement. You're supposed to be on the side of the good, not the crazy radicals. Look, I was a First Amendment lawyer. I understand. I was a religious liberty defense lawyer. I understand free speech. We vigorously protect the right to free speech, but you cannot assault law enforcement officers. And there is a line that has to be maintained. It's not risen to the level of Congress yet, but we're watching that closely. And the Republican Party stands for law enforcement. That's where we're going to be. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What would you say to those who question the legality of the administration repurposing some of those funds to pay military members?
Look, my understanding of this is they have every right to move the funds around, duly appropriated dollars from Congress to the Department of Defense. There were some R&D accounts that had not been spent, and that's my understanding is that's the money that's being used to pay the troops right now. If the Democrats want to go to court and challenge troops being paid, bring it, okay? I'm grateful for a commander-in-chief who understands the priorities of the country, the necessity of national defense, and the urgency that we all feel and have voted for 8 times. Republicans have voted in Congress 8 times now between House and Senate to fund the troops and pay federal workers in all these essential jobs and agencies because we understand the necessity of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats voted 8 times to block their paychecks. I'm grateful we have a president who is willing to step up and do the right thing. Thank you all so much.
House Speaker Mike Johnson earlier today speaking along with other members of the GOP leadership on day 14 of the government shutdown. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. When we come back, we're going to hear from Democratic members of Florida's congressional delegation as this shutdown continues, talking about their positions and what they want to see with health care. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is a live look at the White House, the West Wing driveway, where we do expect President Trump to greet the president of Argentina here shortly, any minute now. They're also expected to have some meetings and a lunch together as well once the Argentinian president arrives, which we do expect here shortly. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. So we just heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson and Republican leadership talking about where things stand on day 14 now of the government shutdown. We also heard earlier today from Democratic members of Florida's congressional delegation, several of them, including Congressman Darren Soto and Maxwell Frost, also Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, holding a virtual news conference where they talked about health care, specifically the tax credits for the ACA, Affordable Care Act subsidies. That has been a major sticking point of the Democrats when it came to this shutdown and the funding battle. This is the main thing that they say they want to see extended before they agree to reopen the government. So in this news conference earlier today, Democrats talked about the impacts here in Florida because they say that Florida faces one of the worst or one of the largest impacts if those tax credits are allowed to expire, because they shared some data that of the top 15 congressional districts with the highest number of Affordable Care Act enrollees, 12 of them are in the state of Florida. And on a yearly basis, the state of Florida leads the nation in Affordable Care Act signups. So here's what congressional Democrats from Florida had to say about this issue in a virtual news conference just a little bit ago.
So we're now on day 14 of this GOP-owned shutdown and the third week of House Republicans' extended paid vacation, where they've essentially decided to be AWOL. As most of you know, Republicans who control every branch of government in Washington shut down the government because they refused to negotiate a fix to the health care coverage cliff that they're about to drive millions of people over. And the reason that we called you all to join us today is because Florida, more than any other state, has more to lose if this Republican healthcare crisis isn't solved. When Republicans passed the big ugly law in the dead of night this summer, they inflicted the deepest cuts ever to Medicaid. DeSantis's own budget chief described last week how this law will blow nearly a $4 billion hole in our own state budget. Hospitals, doctors, patients will all feel the harsh effects of this legislation for years to come, and we're feeling it already. Jackson South Hospital down in Southwest Miami-Dade County recently closed their labor and delivery department. Constituents tell my office about primary physicians who continually curb services or are dropping themselves out of coverage plans entirely. And we'll see more cuts like these locally as more harsh, slow burn cuts from that law take hold in our communities. Perhaps we should count ourselves lucky, though, since the big ugly law will close entire hospitals in some communities. But if Trump and Republicans continue to refuse to negotiate our way out of this healthcare coverage crisis, it's going to be absolutely brutal, disproportionately for Florida. I know I recently met with healthcare and hospital leaders in my Broward community, and they said as many as a quarter of the patients through their doors count on Obamacare to get their health insurance coverage. In my district alone, 203,000 people use it, and they will see their healthcare costs skyrocket. It's actually 209,000 people who use it. 203,000 will see their healthcare costs skyrocket. And there's more than 4 million across the state of Florida who do as well. Of the top 25 congressional districts with the highest percentage of people who use the Affordable Care Act coverage, 17 of them in Florida. 3 of them are represented by Republican members of Congress in South Florida, where basically a third of their constituents use ACA plans. And every one of our districts on this call is on the top 10 list for the number of constituents who use Obamacare for their healthcare coverage. If these credits expire, millions of people and thousands of people that we represent, really hundreds of thousands, will face double, triple, or quadruple price hikes in their premiums. That's not exaggeration or hyperbole. We've seen the notices, we've talked to insurance companies, and we know that that's what's coming. And you all know what that really means. Families will be forced to drop coverage Chronic diseases will go undiagnosed. ERs will be flooded. That is what my hospital and healthcare leaders told me last week. People will needlessly die and our communities will be ravaged. And it's not just ACA families who will be hit. So what we have to make sure people understand is that, people shouldn't think, oh, I'm not covered by an Affordable Care Act policy, so it's not going to affect me. When people leave plans, especially younger and relatively healthier folks, insurance companies jack up the rates on all of us. And there's also cost shifting. A constituent last week shared their Medicare rate hike notice that showed his out-of-pocket costs will double and his prescription drug deductible will triple. And the enhanced premium tax credits at the heart of this debate inordinately help Florida's older ACA enrollees. For example, for a 60-year-old couple in Florida with an income of $85,000, they could see their annual premiums jump by over $18,000. So instead of just spending under 10% of their income on coverage, it would eat up almost a third of their income. That's insane, it's unnecessary, and it will drive families to go without it. Now, I know we'll get to the politics of all this in the Q&A, but our fellow Republicans in Congress cannot, with a straight face, tell Democrats, the media, or their own constituents, oh, if we just wait a couple of months, they'll work to solve all of this with us together. That's simply not believable or credible. Trump confessed in a debate with Kamala Harris that he had no more than, and I quote, the concepts of a plan for healthcare reform. And that was 13 months ago. Where the hell is it? We need to solve this healthcare crisis and reopen our government right now. We can't trust the Republicans to just, sit down with us after we open the government, because you can look at their track record over the last 10 months. They've been cutting and firing their way through this year. We can't trust them in 13 days, and 13 weeks, or 13 months. We have to get this done together right now. And now I'll turn it over to Congressman Soto for a few words, and then we'll hear from Congressman Frost.
Thank you, Debbie. Florida Republicans can run, but they can't hide. With 4.6 million Floridians on the Obamacare exchange, the Sunshine State will be hardest hit on November 1st when those cuts become a reality. And the clock is ticking. My district has the second most Obamacare in the nation, with 271,000 people getting their health care through the ACA exchange with the premium tax credits. And as alluded by Debbie, all top 10 districts for Obamacare are in Florida. And there's a good reason for that. We have a lot of folks working for small businesses. We have a lot of folks who are independent contractors, and they don't have access to affordable employer-based healthcare. So they've gone on the exchange. And the fact that Florida didn't expand Medicaid only made it more desperate for folks to have to use the ACA exchange. When you look at the average cuts, it's 75%. A family making the median income of around $82,000 will see a $3,000 to $3,500 increase for a family of four. For pre-Medicare seniors, they get wiped out. $10,000 to $15,000 plus increases. No one has that money around. Remember when Donald Trump ran on lowering costs? Well, now he's running away from lowering costs with this key negotiation. And it gets even worse because 105,000 of my constituents can lose insurance altogether. That will decimate our local hospitals. It'll decimate our local doctor and practices, our federally qualified clinics. I wrote an op-ed in the Orlando Sentinel this past Sunday that goes into intimate detail for all you deep divers out there. I spent the last week and a half meeting with small businesses who don't know how they're going to cover themselves or their employees. I met with constituents who will lose their insurance. I met with hospitals that say that they could have to close locations. And we know this is only going to spread. Employer-based plans are going up too. Medicare Advantage is going up too. I had a local employer tell me their new quote for 2026 was 24% higher than last year. Because when you take over 1 million people, I think it's about 2 million people who will lose insurance out of the system, then all the rest of us pay. We also see unlawful mass layoffs. CNN just covered a local veteran, Douglas Jackson, who works for the IRS, was fired, and he believes because of his political beliefs. Let's make it clear. They're not saving any money by laying off federal employees. In fact, they're not even following the law. All they're doing is trying to play hardball, but the clock is ticking. Our folks, with 271,000 people needing this done, we are ready to continue to fight. They're not saving any money. And if they could find $20 billion to bail out Argentina, certainly we could find $30 billion to save America's health care. And I know our fellow appropriator here, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, knows we got the money to be able to do this. It's time to come together. And with that, I'm excited to be able to introduce my Orlando colleague, my neighbor, and dear friend, Representative Maxwell Frost.
So I'll get you back to Congressman Frost's remarks coming up in just a couple of minutes. We do need to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. And we will hear from Congressman Frost speaking in that news conference just a little bit ago. So keep it right here on Fox 35 News Plus, live on Fox Local and on YouTube.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you a live look inside one of the House press galleries in Washington, D.C., where we expect Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader. He is scheduled to hold a news conference around 2 o'clock, it looks like, talking about the government shutdown. We are also hearing some other angles of the government shutdown today. This is a news conference where we expect the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America to hold a news conference calling on Congress to pay the troops, figure out a way to work across party lines to pass a funding bill or figure out a way to pay our service members and others who are relying on that funding but currently working without pay. I want to give you another live look outside the White House, seeing a lot of action now as you see the American flag and the Argentinian flag there as we wait for President Trump to step outside here at the West Wing and greet the president of Argentina, Javier Milei, expected to arrive at the White House any minute now. Supposed to have a lunch with President Trump. I'm trying to scroll through the schedule here. Yeah, it looks like he's scheduled to have a lunch with the Argentinian president. And then later today as well, President Trump going to posthumously award the Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk in the East Room of the White House. That ceremony scheduled for 4 o'clock. So that will be inside the East Room of the White House, and you can expect a big crowd out there for that event coming up. It is the day 14 of the government shutdown. I want to get you back to this news conference where we heard from several Democratic members of Florida's congressional delegation speaking about the impacts of the shutdowns, but really looking at health care, which is one of the main reasons that we are seeing this shutdown right now. Democrats really saying they don't want to sign a funding bill until there is an extension of the tax credits, the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Meanwhile, Republicans saying they will negotiate that after the government is reopened. So we kind of remain at a standstill right now. When we wrapped up just a few minutes ago and went to break, we were getting ready to hear from Congressman Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida's 10th district. Here is what he had to say.
Here, what's going on right now is very simple. Congressional Republicans and Donald Trump would rather let the government shut down the government, than ensure that we protect the health care of working people across this country. And the reason that they want to shut down the government to put us in a healthcare crisis is because they want to give tax breaks to billionaires and mega corporations, just like they did in the big ugly bill. And this is a continuation of that. And so I'm really proud that Democrats are standing strong, saying we are the party of the working class, we're the party of working people, and we don't want people's healthcare costs to go up anywhere from 50 to 300%. We don't want millions of people in this country losing their healthcare, because we believe healthcare is a human right for every single person in this country. And that's what we're fighting for. And let's talk about what this looks like. Because see, in the meeting that Donald Trump and Mike Johnson had with our leaders, Mike Johnson said that healthcare is an extraneous issue. Donald Trump said we can handle this later. We can handle it in December. This is part of the reason why people hate Congress so much. How out of touch is that for the billionaire president of the United States to sit in the Oval Office and say, no, let's clock in at the end of the year? What other job in America can you clock in at the end of the year? We're here to do our work. We're here to do our job. I know that there's going to be so many Democrats on the Hill today. I'm here right now. I know Debbie's coming up as well, and I think Darren as well, to work. We are here to work. We are here to clock in and do our damn job to make sure that our people have health care and that we can reopen the government. But the Republicans are nowhere to be found. They're doing fundraisers across the country. They're taking vacations across the globe. We're here to work. And this is very, look, in my district, 189,000 people are receiving those letters or will receive that letter that tell them, hey, the health care you paid for this year is going to be double next year. And I actually put out a call to my constituents to send me pictures of their letters, to send me videos of them talking about it. We've been posting them little by little, and they're heartbreaking story after heartbreaking story. In fact, I have one constituent who received a letter just last week saying her health care would go up by double. She's having to cut from her grocery trips. She had to cancel a trip to go see her parents that she hasn't seen in a long, long time. And a lot of people are considering having to change their housing situation because the rent is too damn high. We have to remember that Donald Trump is throwing us into this healthcare crisis while he's also throwing us into a grocery store crisis, while he's also throwing us into a housing crisis, even worse than it ever was before. Everything is so much more expensive. Wages are the same. They haven't gone up, and working people just need a break. And taking away their health care, it's one of the most inhumane things a person can do. And so I'm really proud to be standing with my colleagues here, fighting for healthcare, especially in a state like Florida, where we have the largest Affordable Care Act exchange in the entire country. What does that mean? It means the most people in the nation that use the Affordable Care Act to stay healthy, to not get sick, to stay healthy and not die, is our state of Florida. And so we're going to protect it with everything we got, and we're here to get to work.
Thank you,
Great.
Congressman Frost. Now we will take your questions. We actually have a question that was sent in by Kimberly Leonard from Politico. She writes, can you describe some of the calls you're getting from constituents about higher premiums? I know open enrollment doesn't start until November 1st, but people are already getting some letters from their current insurers about what to expect.
Yeah, I put out a call to constituents through text messages and emails to send me stories about their increases, and we got notification from a father of 5 in Fort Lauderdale whose premiums are going to go up 297%. His health insurance was going to go up $18,000 a year for his 5 kids. We had a receptionist call and tell us that her premiums were going to double. You can imagine the salary of a receptionist and what the impact of that kind of increase would be. And look, I have others as well, and we're happy to share them with you. I shared the story about the Medicare beneficiary whose prescription drug coverage was going to be gone and whose premiums were going to double. I'm someone who personally knows what it means to one day be the picture of health and the next day be a cancer patient. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And so that the Republicans would not be showing up to work, would refuse to sit down at the negotiating table and refuse to do their jobs to ensure that people across this state and across this country are able to go to the doctor to keep themselves healthy and don't have to use the emergency room as their primary access point for healthcare is heartless and gutless and inhumane. And the other thing that's important to knock down here, which a lot of the press has reported very clearly, but unfortunately the Republicans keep parroting the lies, undocumented immigrants are prohibited from participating in Medicaid and from receiving enhanced premium tax credits. So this is just a complete lie. They know they don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to making sure that we extend these tax credits and that they cut 15 million people off of their Medicaid. So they have to lie and distort to try to win public opinion, which they are currently losing.
If I may add, a lot of people don't know that their premiums are about to go up yet. Mm-hmm. I was at a local insurance agent, a lady who worked with a lot of the Hispanic community and the Haitian community in our area, along with her agents in Kissimmee. And they were just getting a sense over that last week, because of some of the news out there from House Democrats making this a big issue, that there was potentially going to be increases. So when we started plugging in the numbers for some of the clients that they had appointments for over the next 2-3 weeks, that's when it really started clicking with everyone. Wow, this is going to be about $3-4 grand for some of these older folks, 10+ grand or more. And so right now, most people in my district still only have just a general sense that there's some issue with Obamacare. But in 2 weeks, they're going to all know. And so this is a perfect time to negotiate while there's still the ability to get this done and no harm, no foul. But on November 1st,
that was Congressman Darren Soto speaking. See President Trump walking out to greet the president of Argentina, who is expected to arrive any minute now. Let's go ahead and listen in as this arrival takes place at the White House.
President Trump, sir, is Hamas holding up their end of the deal, sir? Find out. Your message to the people of Argentina, please. Love them. Be there for them. And have a great leader. Very great leader. Thank you. Be inside.
The President of the United States and Argentina now heading into the White House. If you didn't hear the question that was shouted at the president, ask if Hamas is holding up their end of the peace deal. The President Donald Trump saying, we will find out. He was also asked his message to the Argentinian people, saying we love them. So now heading inside to the White House, they're expected to have a lunch with the lunch together and some meetings together as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the president's supposed to present the posthumous Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk at a ceremony later today at the White House. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I want to get you now to some of your News Plus headlines this afternoon. And a 20-year-old man has been arrested in the ambush killing of 15-year-old Kariah Duncan last week in Cocoa. That suspect actually due in court any minute now for his first appearance. Gualtieri Smith, his name. Meanwhile, the other suspect is still on the run, and Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz has the detail.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, deputies are glad that they found one of the alleged shooters, but they're still looking for the second one, and they're not giving up until they can get justice for Kariah Duncan.
Xavier Butler, you're next. Turn yourself in. Don't be a coward.
That was Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey calling out the second gunman. This comes after deputies arrested the other alleged shooter, John Rick Smith. Both are accused of shooting 3 people and killing 15-year-old Kariah Duncan. Deputies called it an ambush and say that 2 gunmen shot more than 20 gunshots into a business and the car the 3 victims were in. The next day, dozens of people showed up to the scene to create a memorial for Kariah. Her mother telling Fox 35 all about her daughter.
Kariah was funny. She liked to dance. She liked to listen to music. She liked to blog. She was a special kid.
Now deputies are looking for the second gunman accused of killing Kariah. His name, Xavier Butler.
And I'm just glad this one's behind bars. I need the other one, Xavier Butler. Let's get him locked up as well.
And Butler is wanted for premeditated murder. There's also 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm that's also on the list. Reporting in Cocoa, Amanda Ruiz, Fox 35 News.
And so we are monitoring court for more developments in the hearing, the first appearance of that first suspect, and also awaiting information and updates if there were to be an arrest of the second suspect there. Meanwhile, some controversy over a suspect that has been released from jail on bond. We're talking about Jacoby Tillman, who was released on bond Sunday, a $9,500 bond. He's accused of attacking a woman on a popular running trail this summer, and is now facing charges in connection with that. But some people not happy that he is out of jail at the moment on bond. Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie has that story.
Well, a victim from one of Tillman's past cases tells us she is uneasy and afraid. She tells Fox 35 she had no idea about her attacker's most recent arrest. She says she's not just worried for herself, but for other women. Convicted felon and now suspected attempted rapist Jacoby Tillman was released on bond Sunday morning. Tillman spent 1 year in state prison after convictions in Volusia and Orange counties. One of them was a stabbing in 2022, and just a few months later, he assaulted Nuri Quinn while she was out for a run. Quinn didn't want to relive the experience, so prosecutors went ahead with a misdemeanor case. Tillman pled no contest. The judge found him guilty and ordered Tillman to just pay a fine. Fast forward to this past July, and Orange County deputies say Tillman tried to rape a woman on the Little Econ Greenway Trail. The arrest affidavit claims Tillman told a friend he wanted to know what it was like to choke someone out.
I feel really uneasy right now because just as it happened to me and another woman, what happens if it happens to someone else?
Judge Elaine Barber set his bond at $9,500, even though the state pushed for pretrial detention, and she acknowledged that his criminal record and charges were, quote, violent in nature. State Attorney Monique Worrell sent us a statement saying, quote, after reviewing the facts of this case, our office felt that the release of the defendant was not appropriate, and he presents a danger to our community. Judges are not permitted to comment on pending court cases. Right now, no timeline has been set for when the suspect, Jacoby Tillman, is due back in court. Reporting live in the studio, Amanda McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Oh, we also have some updates on the upcoming bear hunt here in the state of Florida coming up in December. FWC issued over 150 tag permits for those hopeful bear hunters, but we've also learned that at least 40 of those went to people who say they don't want to hunt the bears, they want to protect the bears. Fox 35's Marley Capper had more details on that this morning.
Well, the permits were a lottery system, and out of 172 given out, 40 of them were given to bear conservationists. So they're really excited about this, and this was their plan all along, to try to prevent bears from being killed. More than 160 people applied for FWC's permits to hunt bears. The money for the permits raised more than $800,000, money that'll go towards conservation efforts. James Scott, volunteer leader of Sierra Club Florida, praises the action of bear advocates.
This year, we are going to save bears. Dozens of bears that would have been hunted and killed and harvested will not be killed. Does that mean that next year they can raise the quota to make up for it? It's possible.
Now that a percentage of tags are for non-hunters, Fox reached back out to Will Krebs, supporter of the harvest and host of the Under Pressure Outdoors podcast. He says the actions of bear protection advocates could have a reverse effect.
Next year, FWC is going to look at the harvest data. There's a quota that they want to have met. And if it's not met, then they're going to increase the quota.
One bear conservation group says that basically what will happen is with the hunt, they'll have to report to FWC that they didn't kill any bears. Again, that's what they wanted to do, and that way FWC has that information. Their bear hunt is expected to start on December 6th. For now, reporting for Good Day Orlando, Marley Capper, Fox 35 News.
That was Fox 35's Marley Capper earlier today. We're also following up on what was a big story last week, and that was the arrest of a Kentucky man who was released early from prison in Kentucky on parole and was rearrested here in Florida for failing to register as a convicted felon. That arrest was made in Marion County, and Sheriff Billy Woods, the Marion County Sheriff, was on Good Day Orlando earlier today to talk about the case and the arrest of Ronald Exantis.
This is such a disturbing case on so many levels, going all the way back to Kentucky. This poor family, I can't even imagine. And then to hear how little time he served, Sheriff, it is very disturbing to a lot of folks.
Absolutely. You know, the father's absolutely correct. How could somebody that committed an offense like this, killing a 6-year-old child, and only get 20 years and then only spend such a short time? You know, it's disgusting. It's appalling. His mistake is he came to Marion County. You know, I don't tolerate it. My deputies don't tolerate it. And here in Florida, we don't tolerate this. You know, this individual shouldn't see the light of day for the offense. And I feel, as a father myself, I feel heartbroken for the victims, you know, for him, for the father of that child. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure I send him back to Kentucky. You know, a lot of people ain't talking about one of the things is I want to give a little shout out to the parole board. You know, I want to make it abundantly clear. Here's what I do know. The parole board unanimously decided no, do not release him. It's because of some stupid Kentucky law that they have there that whoever in their idiotic brain decided to let this individual out. He shouldn't see the light of day, Amy.
So, Sheriff, if you would, tell us how this works. So someone is released from prison. It was decided that he was going to go live with some family members in Marion County. How is the system supposed to work? So he is supposed to automatically or you know, let the sheriff's office know that he has been released and he is coming to live there?
That is correct. In the state of Florida, all convicted felons are required to register with the sheriff of the county in which they are living in. Now, we have numerous ones. We're after them all the time, ensuring that they are registered, and he failed to register, which got our attention, which it's going to be able to get us in cooperation with the governor's staff here in the state to be able to get him to send him back to Kentucky.
So is he still there now, and where is he being held?
He's in my jail currently here in the Marion County Jail, and he has a hearing coming up.
And Sheriff, how did you guys get tipped off that you had a convicted felon living in Marion County and you weren't notified?
So actually it came through our state attorney. He gave us a call. It wasn't necessarily the individual themselves. It was the case that got his attention to make us aware about the father, which I can't blame the father. The father is furious. That he wants to take justice in his own hand. As a father, I probably would as well too. Some individual that just kills my 6-year-old child, you know. But it got our attention. So when my detectives, in which they did a fabulous job, my detectives did an outstanding job of researching and then discovering he had not registered as required here in the state of Florida. And then we immediately got the warrant, went through the state attorney, and we arrested his ass.
So, Sheriff, just real quick, so what happens now? So he will, anticipating that he'll go back to Kentucky, and then, I mean, are you sure that Kentucky will take care of it this time around? What happens?
I can't answer for other states. I hope for the love of God they do take care of it. To my understanding, I think lawmakers there in Kentucky are beginning to see the light. You know, because here in Florida, we're going to do everything we can to send him right back there. I'm going to do everything I can to keep him in the jail so he doesn't see the light. Here's the other disturbing part, Amy, is that he was living literally right next to a school here in Marion County. And that's what's alarming. That's what scared my citizens, and we took action.
Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods on Good Day Orlando this morning. Ronald Exantis served 8 years of a 20-year sentence. He was convicted of assault in the stabbing of 6-year-old Logan Tipton's sister, but he was found not guilty by reason of insanity of the murder of 6-year-old Logan Tipton. Now, you heard them talk about hearing from the father of that 6-year-old boy. I spoke with Dean Tipton last week. That was Friday here on Fox 35 News Plus. We had that interview for you. If you missed it, you'd like to see it. He had some strong words, but also some words of thanks for officials down here in Florida. You can find that full interview right now on Fox Local and fox35orlando.com. Shifting gears here, and we are just over a week away from the start of the NBA season for the Orlando Magic. It'll be the Magic and the Heat tipping off next Wednesday. That's October 22nd. At the Kia Center. The two have already played a couple of times in the preseason, the Magic winning both of those preseason contests. And here is what Jamal Mosley has to say about how the Magic are looking at this point in the preseason.
I think they did a pretty good job of doing the things that we asked them to do, the style of play. Obviously, there's some small pieces that we're going to have to continue to clean up. 20 turnovers for 27 points. We've got to do a better job there. And it's similar to the last game, you know, give Miami credit in the way they were attacking the basket. Putting them on the line 34 times is not what we want to. That was 38 in the last time we played them. So we've got to do a better job of defending without fouling.
How do you feel like your team maybe settled down some in the second quarter, especially Franz got going there?
I thought they did a great job settling. Again, part of that first quarter stretch was the turnovers as well as the fouling. So once we settled that down, I think they had 14 free throws essentially in the first quarter alone. And then once we stopped fouling, we did a much better job of being able to contain the basketball, and we were able to get out on the break a little bit more to create some easy baskets.
It's still we're missing some guys, they're missing some guys, but what have you seen through these 3 games that you like, that has kind of carried over offensively, that has given this team a little bit of a spark on that end?
The unselfishness. I think that the play that does it for me was the end of the game, could have just been done, and these guys just continue to play. Lester makes the one more extra pass to the corner for Alex for a corner 3, and that just says what this group is about, and that's what we've talked about when the spacing is right, the quick decisions. Coach Joe showed that pregame about being able to make that one more pass, to trust the pass, and the open man is the right man.
This happened in a previous preseason game, but Jace comes out that second half and hits 2 threes like that. Just what does it say about him for him to, I know you've talked about it before for getting that first half, but just as a rookie, what does that mean to you?
Maturity. I mean, he possesses that about as a young guy, he already possesses that. But he studies the game. He's asking the right questions. He puts in the work. That says a lot about him.